Julie Andrews, widely celebrated as one of the greatest performers in stage and screen history, is best known for her unforgettable roles in Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music. Her angelic voice, radiant charm, and seemingly effortless grace made her a household name and a figure beloved by millions. Yet, behind a poised exterior that captivated audiences worldwide was a life shaped by hardship, perseverance, and determination. Julie Elizabeth Wells was born on October 1st, 1935, in Walton-on-Thames, Surrey, England, into a family whose life was far from the fairy tale world she would later inhabit on stage and screen. Her mother, Barbara Ward Wells, was a spirited woman with artistic dreams, while her father, Edward Charles Ted Wells, worked as a teacher of metalwork and woodworking. However, Julie's birth was a result of her mother's extramarital affair with a family friend, a truth Julie did not learn until she was 15 years old, a revelation that would shape her understanding of family and trust in ways she carried for decades. Her childhood coincided with World War II, a period that brought both chaos and opportunity. Families across England were uprooted, bombings devastated communities, and children were sent to new homes in an effort to keep them safe. For Julie, this meant moving between her father's and mother's households, adjusting to new routines, and navigating the tensions of fractured family life. Though these years were marked by instability and hardship, they also introduced Julie to the arts in a profound way, as her mother and stepfather were performers who involved her in early stage shows, instilling in her both discipline and a love for music. Through these formative experiences, Julie learned resilience, the value of hard work, and the ability to captivate an audience, skills that would later serve her in the most glamorous theaters in the world. Despite the turbulence of her youth, she discovered solace and expression in singing. From her earliest days, music was more than a pastime. It became a lifeline, a way to process emotions and carve out an identity in a world that often felt unpredictable and harsh. By the time she reached adolescence, she was already showing extraordinary talent, guided by her stepfather's support and the mentorship of Madame Lillian Styles Allen, a concert soprano who would become one of the most influential figures in Julie's artistic development. Madame Styles Allen recognized Julie's incredible vocal range, precision, and control, pushing her to tackle challenging pieces by Mozart and Rossini. Under her tutelage, Julie not only mastered complex musical techniques, but also gained the confidence and poise that would define her presence on stage and screen. These early lessons, while rigorous, gave her a foundation that allowed her to rise above her difficult circumstances and eventually become one of the most celebrated performers of her generation. Julie Andrews' journey from a small-town girl in wartime England to Broadway and Hollywood stardom was marked by both talent and tenacity. At the age of 10, she began performing professionally with her mother and stepfather, often in small shows that were modest in scale but crucial in shaping her stage presence and professionalism. These early performances taught her rhythm, timing, and the importance of connecting with an audience, no matter how small or makeshift the venue. In post-war Britain, she toured with her family, performing for soldiers and traveling long distances, sleeping in cramped conditions, and learning early the demands and sacrifices required of a performer. Her breakthrough came when she caught the attention of Val Parnell, a prominent entertainment executive who saw her potential and gave her the opportunity to perform at the London Hippodrome. At just 12 years old, she delivered a professional solo performance that showcased her exceptional voice and stage confidence, earning recognition and respect in the theatrical community. By 13, she became the youngest solo artist to perform at the prestigious Royal Variety performance in front of King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, a milestone that marked her as a rising star with extraordinary promise. From there, her career accelerated rapidly, moving through radio appearances, early television shows, and leading roles in pantomimes and West End productions. Julie's talent was undeniable, but what set her apart was her dedication to mastery rather than fame. She worked tirelessly to refine her craft, embracing each role as a learning opportunity. By the early 1950s, she had already established herself as a professional performer across London's most renowned venues, gaining experience that would later prepare her for international acclaim. Her Broadway debut in 1954 as a boyfriend marked her first major success in the United States, receiving critical praise and winning the hearts of audiences with her charm and vocal brilliance. This success led to her being cast in My Fair Lady, a role that would cement her reputation as one of the finest actresses and singers of her generation. Her portrayal of Eliza Doolittle was widely celebrated for its authenticity, emotional depth, and vocal excellence, earning her accolades from critics and fellow performers alike. These early years of rigorous training, small stage performances, and early professional triumphs laid the foundation for a career that would eventually span decades, leaving an indelible mark on both stage and screen. While Julie Andrews had conquered Broadway with grace and talent, her transition to Hollywood was not without obstacles. When the film adaptation of My Fair Lady was announced, many assumed she would naturally reprise her role as Eliza Doolittle. However, studio head Jack Warner decided otherwise, believing Julie, despite her stage success, was not yet a movie star capable of drawing box office crowds. Instead, the role went to Audrey Hepburn, a performer already established in Hollywood with films like Breakfast at Tiffany's and Sabrina. While Hepburn was celebrated for her elegance and on-screen presence, she was reportedly uneasy with the casting, aware that Julie had earned the role on stage and that audiences expected her in the film. Behind the scenes, Hepburn faced additional challenges, as her singing was dubbed by Marni Nixon, leading to private humiliation and professional anxiety. For Julie, the disappointment was profound. She had created Eliza Doolittle on stage and seen her work interpreted on screen by another actress. Yet fate intervened when Walt Disney offered her the role of Mary Poppins, a part that would define her Hollywood career. Despite being pregnant at the time, Julie accepted, and the film became a massive success, earning her an Academy Award and a Golden Globe. This twist of fate created a complicated dynamic with Audrey Hepburn, leading to tension, quiet resentment, and the legendary Hollywood story of unspoken rivalry. Although the two actresses would later meet with polite smiles and mutual respect, the story of Julie Andrews and Audrey Hepburn remains one of subtle competition, missed opportunities, and the bittersweet realities of a highly competitive industry. Even as Julie Andrews soared to international fame, her personal life remained deeply human, nuanced, and at times quietly complicated. While the world saw a perfect, polished icon of grace and elegance, Julie experienced love, loss, and the challenges of balancing career and family behind the scenes. She was known to have loved only two men deeply in her life, a testament to her loyalty and capacity for long-lasting devotion. The first was Tony Walton, a gifted set and costume designer she met as a child, and the second, the legendary filmmaker Blake Edwards, who would become her lifelong partner. Julie's relationship with Tony Walton began innocently when she was just 11 years old, performing in a Christmas pantomime called Humpty Dumpty at the George Hotel in Luton. Walton, a year older, was immediately captivated by her energy and talent, and the two became pen pals, exchanging letters for years as their friendship deepened into something far more meaningful. By the time they reunited as adults, that childhood bond had matured into love. They married on May 10th, 1959, young, talented, and full of hope, embarking on a journey that combined artistry, creativity, and partnership. Their daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton, was born on November 27, 1962, further enriching their lives and solidifying their family bond. Balancing the pressures of fame, a demanding career and family life, however, proved far from simple. Julie often spoke candidly about the challenges of parenting while maintaining a career in theater and film, describing marriage as a wondrous thing, but probably the hardest work I've ever done. Long separations for filming, tight rehearsal schedules, and the constant public attention created stress and strain, eventually leading to the couple's separation in 1968. Despite the heartbreak, Julie and Tony managed to remain close friends, maintaining a lifelong bond that survived the dissolution of their marriage and ultimately deepened over decades. When Tony Walton passed away in 2022, Julie remembered him with profound affection, calling him her dearest and oldest friend and praising his contributions to the arts. Their story is a reminder that love can endure, evolve, and survive even when circumstances force a relationship into new forms. It was during this period that another significant chapter in Julie's personal life began, one that would eventually bring her both profound joy and lasting companionship. Julie Andrews' next major love was with Blake Edwards, the celebrated director of Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Pink Panther, and other cinematic classics. Their story was one of timing, serendipity, and emotional readiness. While their paths briefly crossed in 1959, it was years later, during the late 1960s, that fate brought them together more decisively. By then, both were navigating the aftermath of earlier relationships, Julie emerging from her separation from Tony Walton, and Blake managing his own complicated history. Their meeting outside a therapist's office is a story often recounted with delight. Julie driving one way, Blake the other. A playful conversation ensued, and the two felt an immediate connection. What began as casual interaction soon deepened into a meaningful relationship, blending romance with creative partnership. Julie described Blake as the most charismatic and interesting fellow I'd ever met, someone whose wit and intelligence complemented her own artistic sensibilities. Over the next few years, their relationship blossomed into a marriage that lasted more than 4 decades, a rare achievement in an industry where fame, pressure, and creative egos often disrupt personal lives. Together, they built a family filled with love, art, and a touch of chaos. They adopted 2 daughters from Vietnam, Amy and Joanna, and Julie also became a stepmother to Blake's children from a previous marriage. Life with Edwards was full of energy, creativity, and shared passion for the arts, with both partners supporting and challenging one another in equal measure. In interviews, Julie often spoke of their marriage as a partnership that balanced affection, mutual respect, and creative inspiration, stating that taking it one day at a time was key to maintaining harmony in a life filled with both personal and professional demands. The loss of Blake Edwards in 2010 was one of the most profound moments of grief in her life. A reminder that even extraordinary talent and achievement are inseparable from the human experiences of love, loss, and endurance. Julie reflected on their life together with warmth, often recounting moments of joy, humor, and collaboration that defined a marriage rooted in both passion and respect. In this union, Julie found a partner who not only understood her artistry but celebrated it, allowing her to flourish on stage and screen while also nurturing her family life. Their love, enduring and steadfast, became as much a part of Julie Andrews' legacy as her voice and performances, offering a model of resilience, devotion, and the possibility of true companionship in both personal and professional spheres. Julie Andrews' singing voice was more than a tool for entertainment. It was an instrument that shaped generations, influenced countless performers, and became a hallmark of her identity. From her earliest days in England, singing was both her refuge and her gift, a means to express emotions that words alone could not capture. Her 4-octave range, technical precision, and expressive clarity set her apart from her contemporaries, and her performances on stage, film, and television became cultural touchstones. Films like Mary Poppins and Sound of Music showcase the power of her voice to enchant, inspire, and connect with audiences of all ages. Yet, what made Julie's voice extraordinary was not just its beauty, but its discipline. Decades of rigorous training with mentors like Madame Lillian Stiles Allen ensured that she maintained control, tone, and flexibility, even as she expanded into increasingly complex roles. Her performances were celebrated not only for vocal excellence, but also for their emotional resonance, reflecting the depth of her personal experiences and the nuances of the characters she portrayed. Audiences responded not merely to perfection of her notes, but to the feeling she conveyed, the authenticity that made each song memorable. However, even a voice so extraordinary was not immune to the pressures of a lifetime in performance. By the late 1990s, years of rigorous use had taken their toll, and Julie began noticing strain in her range. A routine surgical procedure intended to correct a benign lesion on her vocal cords went tragically wrong, resulting in permanent damage. Scar tissue formed, limiting her once vast range to barely 1 octave and depriving the world of the pure bell-like tones that had defined her career. While devastating, this challenge did not end her story. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new chapter. Julie turned her attention to writing, advocacy, and mentorship, using her experience to educate others on vocal health, while continuing to share her artistry in other forms. The loss of her voice was profound, yet she demonstrated resilience, creativity, and adaptability, qualities that had defined her career from childhood to Broadway to Hollywood. Losing her singing voice in the late 1990s was a turning point in Julie Andrews' life, a challenge that could have ended her career, but instead became a catalyst for reinvention. The voice that had enchanted millions, from the soaring notes of Mary Poppins to the heartfelt melodies of The Sound of Music, was no longer hers to command. The surgical procedure meant to correct a benign lesion on her vocal cords instead caused permanent damage, leaving her with drastically reduced range. For someone whose identity and career had been so intimately tied to music, this loss was devastating. Julie described it as losing a piece of her soul, something that had always allowed her to connect with audiences on a profound emotional level. Yet, even in the face of such heartbreak, she refused to retreat from creative life. Recognizing that her voice could no longer carry her performances in the way it once had, Julie turned to writing as a new form of expression. Together with her daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton, and her former husband Tony Walton as illustrator, she began creating children's books that combined whimsy, heart, and music in written form. Over the years, the trio produced more than 30 beloved stories, each imbued with the same warmth, charm, and imagination that had defined her stage and screen performances. For Julie, writing was more than a creative outlet. It was a way to continue inspiring new generations. She approached each story with the same discipline she had applied to singing, carefully crafting characters, dialogue, and plots that would resonate with young readers and their families. Even without her signature voice, she found a way to communicate joy, wonder, and moral lessons through storytelling. Her experience with loss also informed the themes of her books, often emphasizing resilience, empathy, and the power of imagination to overcome obstacles. In this way, Julie transformed personal tragedy into artistic opportunity, demonstrating to the world that talent and creativity are not confined to a single form of expression. While she could no longer sing with the same brilliance that had once defined her, she continued to touch lives in new ways, proving that reinvention is not just a survival strategy. It is a testament to the enduring spirit of an artist who refuses to be silenced. Through writing, Julie maintained her connection to audiences, sharing her legacy of joy, hope, and perseverance in ways that transcended the limitations imposed by circumstance. Even at the height of her success, Julie Andrews experienced disappointment at the hands of Hollywood. One of the most well-known moments in her career occurred when the Broadway hit My Fair Lady was adapted for film in the early 1960s. Julie had created the role of Eliza Doolittle on stage, earning critical acclaim for her portrayal of the Cockney flower girl transformed into a poised London lady. Naturally, many expected her to reprise the role in the film adaptation. However, studio head Jack Warner decided otherwise, asserting that Julie, despite her Broadway triumph, was not a proven movie star and lacked the Hollywood fame necessary to guarantee box office success. Instead, the role went to Audrey Hepburn, a celebrated film actress with international recognition for works such as Breakfast at Tiffany's and Sabrina. While Hepburn possessed undeniable elegance and charm, the casting caused private and public tension. Audrey herself reportedly struggled with the decision, recognizing that Julie had earned the role on stage and feeling conflicted about taking it. Additionally, studio executives brought in Marni Nixon to dub Audrey singing, compounding a sense of artistic compromise and creating a behind-the-scenes struggle that was not widely known at the time. For Julie, the decision was bitter, a painful reminder of the limitations imposed by Hollywood system and the fragile line between opportunity and disappointment. Yet, in a twist of fate, this setback paved the way for Julie's breakthrough in film with Walt Disney's Mary Poppins. Offered the role while pregnant, she accepted, and the result was an instant classic that earned her an Academy Award and a Golden Globe. The timing of this success is notable. Not only did it solidify her place in Hollywood, but it also turned the narrative of stolen opportunities into one of poetic justice. While Julie had been passed over for a role she had rightfully earned on stage, she achieved even greater recognition in a part perfectly suited to her talents. This episode underscores both the competitiveness and unpredictability of Hollywood, where talent, timing, and circumstance collide in unexpected ways. It also highlights Julie Andrews' resilience and grace, qualities that enabled her to respond to disappointment not with bitterness, but with artistry, dignity, and continued creative excellence. In the end, the story of Julie Andrews and Audrey Hepburn is less about rivalry and more about the intricate dynamics of the entertainment industry, where success and recognition often arrive in unpredictable and ironic ways. Throughout her extraordinary life and career, Julie Andrews has remained a symbol of talent, resilience, and timeless grace. From her early days performing in wartime Britain, navigating a challenging childhood, and developing her craft under demanding mentors to her rise as a Broadway star and Hollywood icon. Julie's story is one of dedication, perseverance, and artistry. Even after losing her singing voice, she refused to fade into obscurity, finding new ways to express creativity through writing and advocacy. Her children's books, collaborations with her daughter and former husband, and mentorship of young performers all reflect a commitment to sharing knowledge, inspiration, and joy. Beyond her professional accomplishments, Julie's personal life has been marked by enduring love, friendship, and the ability to maintain dignity amidst loss. Her marriages to Tony Walton and Blake Edwards, her devotion to family, and her lifelong passion for the arts demonstrate a life lived with purpose, compassion, and creativity. Even when faced with setbacks, including the devastating loss of her singing voice, Julie transformed adversity into opportunity, demonstrating a resilience that serves as an example to generations. Today, she is celebrated not only for her extraordinary talent and achievements, but also for her humanity, the kindness, humility, and generosity that have defined her life off the stage. Julie Andrews' legacy is enduring because it extends beyond performance. It is a story of courage, reinvention, and the power of artistry to inspire and uplift. Her impact on music, film, literature, and culture will be felt for generations, ensuring that the magic she brought to every performance continues to resonate. From the stages of London to the hills of Austria, from the sets of Disney films to the pages of children's books, Julie Andrews has left a lasting mark on the world, proving that true greatness lies not just in talent, but in the strength, compassion, and resilience with which it is shared. After the loss of her singing voice, Julie Andrews did not retreat from the world of music and performance. Instead, she became a passionate advocate for vocal health and education. Understanding the profound impact that her own voice had on generations of audiences, she dedicated herself to helping others protect and nurture their vocal instruments. Julie became the honorary chair of the Voice Health Institute, lending her name, credibility, and personal experience to the cause. She spoke publicly about the risks performers face when their vocal cords are strained or improperly treated, and encouraged research into safer medical procedures for singers and actors. Beyond medical advocacy, she mentored aspiring performers, sharing lessons not just in technique, but in discipline, stage presence, and emotional connection, the qualities that had always defined her career. Julie often emphasized that the voice is more than a musical instrument. It is an extension of the self, a means of expressing emotion, conveying truth, and touching others' hearts. Through lectures, interviews, and personal interactions, she inspired countless young singers to approach their craft with dedication, care, and love. Even when she could no longer perform as she once did, she remained a teacher and guide, proving that influence does not always require direct performance. Her advocacy reflects a rare humility and generosity of spirit. Rather than lament what she lost, she transformed personal tragedy into a mission to help others preserve what they might take for granted. This commitment not only preserved her relevance in performing arts, but also extended her legacy far beyond the stage and screen. In this way, Julie Andrews turned personal adversity into service, inspiring others to take care of their voices, pursue excellence, and embrace creativity with joy and responsibility. Throughout her extraordinary journey, Julie Andrews has often reflected on the lessons she has learned, both personally and professionally. From her turbulent childhood in wartime England to her rise as a global superstar, and from her marriages and motherhood to her reinvention as an author and advocate, she has consistently demonstrated resilience, grace, and unwavering dedication. One of her recurring themes is the importance of perseverance in the face of setbacks, whether that setback was losing a coveted role to another actress, facing the pressures of Hollywood, or enduring the devastating loss of her singing voice. Julie's philosophy emphasizes patience, self-respect, and the pursuit of excellence over fleeting fame or recognition. She often speaks about the power of kindness, both to oneself and to others, and about the value of gratitude for opportunities, no matter how imperfect they may seem. Her reflections on family, particularly the enduring love she shared with Blake Edwards and her ongoing bond with Tony Walton, highlight the centrality of human connection in sustaining a meaningful life. Julie's life also demonstrates the importance of reinvention, showing that talent can take many forms and that creativity is not limited to a single medium. Her move from stage and screen to literature exemplifies adaptability and courage, proving that even in the face of profound loss, new forms of expression can emerge, carrying the same beauty, influence, and joy as the original. These lessons are not only instructive for aspiring performers but resonate broadly. They remind us that perseverance, adaptability, and a commitment to excellence are essential components of both personal and professional success. Julie Andrews' life is a story of talent, resilience, and enduring grace. From the chaotic streets of wartime England to the dazzling stages of Broadway, the magical world of Hollywood, and the pages of beloved children's books, she has demonstrated an extraordinary ability to rise above adversity, reinvent herself, and inspire generations. Her story is not merely one of fame and recognition, but of character, discipline, and humanity. Despite facing setbacks, heartbreak, and the devastating loss of her singing voice, Julie remained committed to her craft, her family, and her principles. She transformed challenges into opportunities, turning silence into storytelling and disappointment into grace. Julie's legacy is defined not only by her performances and accolades, but by the countless lives she has touched through music, film, literature, mentorship, and advocacy. She has proven that true greatness is measured not only by talent, but by resilience, integrity, and the ability to uplift others through one's work. Today, Julie Andrews stands as a timeless icon, a living testament to the power of creativity, courage, and kindness. Her story reminds us that artistry is not confined to a single medium, that setbacks can be transformed into growth, and that the heart and spirit behind the art matter as much as the art itself. From the first note she sang to the stories she now writes for children, Julie Andrews' life continues to resonate, inspiring admiration, gratitude, and wonder. She will always be remembered not only for her voice, her poise, or her awards, but for the enduring humanity, joy, and inspiration she has shared with the world. In every sense, Julie Andrews' life is a masterpiece, a blend of music, love, perseverance, and artistry that will echo for generations to come. Stage and screen legend Julie Andrews, beloved for her performances in Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music, has taken on another role in recent years, that of a children's book author. Everyone assumed Julie was too sweet to ever hate anyone. But behind that perfect smile and angelic voice, Hollywood insiders knew a different story. A grudge simmered quietly, fueled by frustration and disappointment, centered on one woman who, in the early 1960s, crossed paths with Julie in a way that would leave a lasting impression. It was a subtle tension, never publicly explosive, but undeniable to those who knew the industry. Who was the woman bold enough to earn Julie's quiet resentment? To understand, we need to step back and examine the life of Julie Andrews, the triumphs, heartbreaks, and challenges that shaped her beyond the iconic roles we remember. Julie Andrews' story begins far from the glamour of Hollywood. Born Julie Elizabeth Wells on October 1st, 1935, in Walton-on-Thames, Surrey, her childhood was steeped in both music and chaos. Her mother, Barbara Ward Wells, was a spirited woman with big dreams, and her father, Edward Charles Ted Wells, worked in metal and woodcraft. Yet Julie's birth was a result of her mother's affair with a family friend, a secret she didn't learn until she was 15.